Okay, so we have left off talking about how all living things are organized. And they're organized chemically, they're organized in a cellular way. Your body has ways of getting chemicals to where they need to be and getting cells to where they need to be. And we also talked a little bit about how in your body, in the body of any multicellular organism, remember this word? What's a multicellular organism? Multi means how many? How many? More than one, yeah. So multicellular organism has got more than one cell. You're a multicellular organism, so is an earthworm, so is a carrot, so is a maple tree, so is a little speck of duckweed floating in a pond, so is, well, most things you can think of other than bacteria. Lots of algae. If you've been in a pond and it looked green, that was probably algae, and much of it was multicellular. So within multicellular organisms, cells are grouped together by their function. Because remember, cells are, specialized. What does specialized mean? We had briefly touched on this. It was a question on the quiz that a lot of people had an issue with. So I wanted to hit it again. If a cell is specialized, can it do any job whatsoever, or does it have a special job to do? Yeah. So specialized cells have a special job to do. The red blood cells in your body, or the body of a mouse, or the body of a blue whale, can't expand and contract and move parts of your body. Okay? The red blood cells in your body only do one thing. What do they do? They carry something. They're like little pickup trucks. They carry oxygen out to all your cells. They can't do anything else. They can't send nerve impulses. You know, the cells in your brain, called neurons, can't carry oxygen. All they can do is send a nerve impulse, send a nerve impulse. So within bodies of multicellular organisms, all of those special cells are grouped together, and they're grouped together to form tissue. So the muscle in your arm is muscle tissue made up of a bunch of little muscle cells put together. If we put a bunch of tissues together, we start to form organs. Your heart, the thing that's keeping you alive right now, is a bunch of muscle tissue. It's some connective tissue. It's some fatty tissue. It's some of what we call vascular tissue, that's blood vessels. And those tissues together form an organ. We can group, let me do that so it doesn't block. We can group a bunch of organs together, and we get a system. So your heart is part of what system? You know? Circulatory, respiratory, digestive. Circulatory, yeah. It's circulating oxygen throughout your body via your blood cells. So within that system, things are grouped and organized. And you, not to make this sound all romantic and, you know, gooey-eyed, you're just a big collection of systems. You're more than that. You're fatty water bags, too. But yeah, you and a blue whale and a maple tree and a daffodil and a smallmouth bass and a coyote and an earthworm and a grasshopper are all a collection of systems. A carrot is a collection of systems. A banana is a collection of systems. So every living thing, every organism, and this is a word we use a lot. It's bold, you might think that's important. Every organism is a collection of organ systems. Okay, so you guys had said when we did the list of things that all living things have in common, all living things eat. So how many of you have heard the word metabolism used? Okay, how's it used? Any one of the three of you. How is it usually used?
Digest food.
Okay, so people talk about like, oh, my metabolism is so slow, or like, my metabolism's so fast. Okay, they're talking about how their body uses food, whether it uses food really efficiently, whether you seem to burn calories really fast, or whether you don't burn a whole lot of calories, whether your body, is very efficient actually. Metabolism is actually more than that. So that's a good way of starting to think about it, but metabolism is actually, it's the sum of all the chemical processes that are going on in your body. Now, most of your chemical processes start off with what? Food. You consume food, your body breaks it down into sugar, your cells use that sugar to do everything they have to do. So metabolism, and remember you have all that white space on the side of your notes. This is one of those places where you're going to want to use it. Metabolism is the sum. What does the sum mean? What does sum mean? You use this term in math a lot. To add. So it's the added up. It's adding up all the chemical processes. The sum of all chemical processes in an organism. And yes, most of our chemical processes start with food. They start with getting energy in. Your body, what happens if you don't eat?
Die.
Eventually you die. But prior to that, what happens to your body?
Weak.
You get weak. Suddenly you can't perform all the functions that your body is used to performing. Yes?
If you don't eat let's say a week, and then you eat you might go off at you and you don't eat in a week, what will that do to you?
Well, you'd probably be pretty uncomfortable for one thing. People who have not eaten for long periods of time, who suddenly have unlimited food, can make themselves pretty sick. Because so what happens to the body if you don't get enough calories? Do you guys talk about World War II as freshmen? You do any World War II history stuff?
A little bit.
Okay, freshman year is what? World perspective? Okay. So, World War II was what? The 1940s. Probably a lot of your grandparents were born during World War II, or maybe your great-grandparents.
My grandpap was in it.
Your grandpa was in it? Okay. Your great-grandpa.
Grandma's dad.
Your grandpa's dad. Okay, so your great-grandfather. Okay, so my dad was born at the start of World War II. It's not that long ago. It's within living memory. We know people who are still alive who were there. During World War II in Europe, things got really bad. Really bad. We've never experienced on this continent what Europe experienced during the war, which is, the war is happening in your streets. It's happening in your yard. Your houses are getting bombed. Your food sources are gone. It's ugly. And especially in Holland, I think it was the winter of 1945, they called the starving winter. There was no food available. It didn't matter how much money you had. It didn't matter who you knew. There just was no food to be had. And people, people starved to death. And the people who did survive, people can eat a lot of things, like rats and earthworms and plants that are not normally considered real edible, insects. Because if you're starving, you will eat it. You overcome all of the normal things that make you go, oh, I couldn't eat that. You'll eat it. If you're starving, you'll eat it. So there were people who went through this starving winter. What's interesting, it's horrible that they went through it, but we can look then at what happens to the body when you go through that. So one of the first things the body starts to do is it shuts down non-essential functions. The body starts shutting stuff off. It's as if it's winter, you've had a snowstorm, the electric's off, and you only have a wood stove to heat with. you start shutting off the rooms that you don't have to use. And you heat the center of the house, you heat the room the wood stove's in or the fireplace is in, and you shut the doors on other rooms. Well, that's what the body starts doing when you start to starve. The body shuts down reproduction. Women stop having periods, males stop producing sperm. Because the body says, whoa, 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 whoa. You barely got enough here to keep you going. We don't need any additional expenditure of energy. Because energy is required to make eggs, to make sperm, to reproduce. The body stops healing. So if you get a cut, what has to happen for that cut to heal? Has to form a scab, and after a scab forms, my daughter's currently fascinated by this, that at some point you can peel off the scab and there's just new skin under there. It is kind of cool. How does that new skin form? You had a cut there. What has to happen? What does healing mean? Yeah, you have to heal, but what does that mean? You're forming new what? New cells. You're forming new skin cells underneath that scab. The scab forms a protective layer while your body puts new cells in there. Well, guess what? If you don't have energy, you can't divide new cells. If people aren't getting enough calories, wounds don't heal. Because the body literally doesn't have enough energy to form new cells. If you put a plant in the dark, it stops, it stops doing a whole lot of things. People who lived through the starving winter in Holland, people who were children during that time, as adults, were shorter than they would have been otherwise. When measured against other family members, etc. On average, they saw great reductions in their adult height. Why? Yeah, because during a critical period in their childhood, their body went, hold it, hold it, hold it. We're not making any more body. I mean, that's what's happening. If you're still growing, and probably ladies, you're probably at your adult height. Males, you're probably still growing. Many males grow until they're 20. Your body is still making more body.
I realized that I've got 5
Have
new
you
shirts,
shot up?
and from the beginning of the school year, I can't even fit them.
Okay, so you're still shooting up.
Or I'm getting fat.
Well, okay, you're still building new body. But the more body you have, the more calories it takes to supply that body. The bigger your body, the more cells you have, the more calories it takes to supply that body. If you're not getting enough calories, if you're not getting enough energy, your body goes, whoa, 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 let's not add any new body here, okay? We can barely support what we have. So children who go through periods of starvation end up shorter because you have to have energy. You have to have energy. Now, humans have it rough. So do mice and earthworms and northern pike and starfish and every other animal you can think of. We can't walk out in the yard and hold our arms up and get food. Plants do. Plants can do that. And some bacteria and algae. They can photosynthesize. What do you know about photosynthesis? What do you know about photosynthesis? What is it? Okay, it does produce oxygen. What else do you know? What do you know, James? Okay, they take in sun for food. Anything else to add to that? Oh, it uses chlorophyll, which is a chemical. Okay, Noah? Okay, anybody else? So it's a chemical process. This is one of those important words. It's a chemical process Oh, geez Louise. Okay, how much of that was paused? Okay. So anyway, photosynthesis is a chemical process Plants use it to get energy. And the three kinds of organisms, this is important, that use photosynthesis are plants, algae, and there are some bacteria that can do photosynthesis. So you probably want to highlight that. The three kinds of organisms that can do photosynthesis are plants, algae, and some bacteria. How many of you have ever seen a mushroom? How many of you have ever eaten a mushroom? I like them on pizza.
What kind of mushroom?
Huh? Any kind of mushroom. They grow out in the woods. You got hen in the woods, you got chanterelles growing in the store, you've got little white button mushrooms, and you got portobellos. They're delicious on pizza, sauteed with butter. Yum. You have a lot in common with a mushroom, and not just because you're a fun guy. Thank you. Get it? Fun guy. Fun guy. You're a fun guy. Okay. You have a lot in common with mushrooms because mushrooms can't make their own food either. So fungus also don't photosynthesize. Animals, fungus, and most bacteria. Most bacteria have to go eat something else. But plants, algae, and some bacteria are able to perform photosynthesis. Stasis. Homeostasis. All living things maintain stable internal conditions. Single cells can control their water content. And a multicellular organism such as you have multiple systems for maintaining homeostasis. You control your water balance and your temperature. You control your water balance and your temperature. Okay, so let's look at some vocabulary stuff here. This word, homeostasis. So I see two big major parts. There's homeo and there's stasis, yes? What does homo mean, or homeo? That prefix home. What? Same, yes. So homo means same. We talk about homogeneous mixtures and homozygous genetic makeups. Homogenized milk is the same throughout. So homo or homeo refers to something being the same. So let's note that. What about stasis? Is there any chunk of that word that you recognize? Does it sound like anything else? Stay. What does stay mean? Means stay. Come on, Moser. Duh. Stay. Okay. What if you tell your dog to stay? What do you want them to do? Not move. It's not that hard. Just don't move. If you've ever had a dog who's hard to train to stay. Okay. So to stay in one place, to be stable. Stationary. What does it mean if something is stationary? Doesn't move. If it stays, it doesn't move. If it's stable, it doesn't move. Stay. It actually comes from, I think it's the Greek, for to stand. To stand in one place. So, stay, to stand. And the cis is just kind of a process of homeostasis is to stand the same, to stay in one place. So we've got the homeo, and we have the stasis. So homeostasis is all about staying still. How many of you would like life to be really darn predictable? No big surprises, no big shakeups, nothing crazy happens. That's kind of the goal for all living things, both in terms of food and water, in terms of just general events in life. Like, you just kind of want everything to be nice and steady and stable and constant. And that's true for you, that's true for bacteria, that's true for maple trees, that's true for, you know, mice and earthworms and grasshoppers and smallmouth bass and dandelions and everything, and your bean plants. They want constant predictability. Life functions best when things are just like this. So, it's August. You run cross country, Noah?
No, I do not.
Okay, somebody in here is cross country, aren't they? You have any cross country? No? Okay. All right. Anyway, you've all gone outside in the summer. And this August was a doozy, wasn't it? We had some real good hot days. 90-degree scorchers. You walk out, what starts to happen?
Sweat.
You sweat. Why?
Because you're hot.
Because you're hot. Why? Why are you sweating because you're hot?
Because your body's trying to cool you down.
Okay. Your body wants to remain at exactly what?
Just 98.
Roughly 98.6. Yeah. For adult humans, it's on average around 98.6. If we start to heat your body up, your body kicks into gear and tries to cool you back down. If we put you in a freezer someplace, if we make you walk into a walk-in refrigerator and stay there, what's going to happen?
You're going to shiver.
You're going to start to shiver. You're going to get goosebumps. Because as your temperature drops, your body kicks in and goes, no. Okay, let's warm this up. And it stokes the fire. So it starts burning. It's like, what was the movie? And they're trapped someplace and they start burning the furniture in the fireplace to stay warm. That's what your body's doing. Your body's like, no, what can we burn for heat? So you start burning off reserves and you raise goosebumps on your arm so that you have more surface area, and your fur, the little tiny hairs on your arm, trap heat. And you start to shiver because muscular contractions keep you warm. Your body kicks in with all this stuff. Now, dogs do the same thing. Who's ever watched a bird in the winter and their feathers are all puffed up? It's involuntary. They aren't thinking about it. They get cold, they puff up their feathers. For the same reason the hair stands up on your arm. Traps a layer of warm air next to the body. It warms them up. So, all multicellular organisms have ways to maintain their internal conditions, their water balance, their temperature. Has anybody here ever gotten good and dehydrated? Okay. What happens?
Sucks.
Well, yeah, it does. It's miserable. Pounding headache.
It starts to it's hard to pee and stuff like that.
Yeah, you can't pee anymore because what's your body doing? Hey, no, let's not get rid of that water. I think we're going to need it. So suddenly your body is not letting go of any of the water that you're producing. You stop sweating. If you're ever really hot and you stop sweating, that's a very bad sign. Because your body at that point is saying, you have lost so little water, I can't even cool you off.
So wrestling sucks for your body.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I have all kinds of issues with what the wrestlers go through, with like starving and lack of water and just general abuse. Yes. Don't get me started. Our little eating
So you don't
disorder
like me?
varsity. I like you. What you people do makes me crazy because I think, oh my gosh, you all have eating disorders
yeah, it's not fun, but you got
during wrestling season. Yeah, I don't want to hear about it. Anyway. Yes.
My friend Eli from all the wrestling, and he's 120 pounds, and he thinks he's fat. Because he's not under 100 pounds.
Yeah, it's an eating disorder.
That's the only way he thinks he's not bad, if he's under 100.
That's eating disorder stuff. Anyway, your body has ways of doing this. Now, what about a single cell? So let's imagine our little bacteria.
I'm drawing this.
Yeah, I would. So we've got our little bacteria here, or a single-celled organism of some kind. Maybe it's an amoeba. Can this thing raise little goosebumps on its arms? It doesn't have arms. It's just one cell. Can it start to sweat? No. If you heat this bacteria up beyond a certain point, guess what happens?
Breaks.
It just dies. Why are you supposed to cook meat to a certain temperature? Kill the bacteria. Because if that bacteria goes above the range where it's comfortable, it just dies. It doesn't have a way to protect itself from getting too hot like you do. A nice, complicated, multicellular organism such as yourself. The only thing that single-celled organisms can control is their water balance. So if they start to get too much water in their cells, so if water comes flooding into their cells, they do have ways of pumping it out. How many of you have ever filled water balloons? You ever overfilled a water balloon? What happens? That's what would happen to this bacteria if it didn't have a way to control its water balance. So it's like a water balloon, because that's really kind of what cells are. And that water balloon, if it gets too much water in it, will just explode. So you can, the cell has ways of essentially pumping water out. Okay? Cells that don't have ways of pumping water out don't survive. Has anybody ever seen somebody salt a cutting board? Anybody at home ever do that? That was something I always learned to do, is you sprinkled salt on the cutting board after you cut meat. What does salt do? Dries you out, draws out moisture. So these bacteria have ways of coping. If they get too much water into their cell, they can pump it out. What happens if the water all gets sucked out of their cell? What do you think happens to them?
It's screwed up and dies.
They just die. So salting the cutting board is another way to kill bacteria on a surface, because you're pulling water out of them. You're making bacteria jerky, in essence, which is disgusting to think about. Okay. How many of you are exactly the same size you were when you were born? Okay, your mothers deserve medals. Growth. All living things grow by cell division and or by cell enlargement. And adult organisms arise through development. This is where we're going to start tomorrow, is with growth and development. Tomorrow, when you walk in, you are going to have a recall quiz over the stuff we talked about today. So, homeostasis, and a little bit on organization, a little bit on energy use. Okay? And we will pick up here tomorrow.